how Uruguay won the 1950 World Cup. 12 years after the previous tournament, the World Cup finally returned, and this time it was hosted by Brazil. Now, this is quite possibly the strangest World Cup of all time, so I'd highly recommend to carry on watching the video. Originally 16 teams qualified, these guys. Scotland and Turkey then withdrew before the groups had been drawn. FIFA then invited Portugal, Ireland and France into it, hoping that two of them would just accept the invitations, it's like filling the gaps. Only France accepted it. The groups had then been drawn, looking like this. And then France and India decided to withdraw for multiple reasons. This meant that Uruguay's group was literally just Uruguay and Bolivia. All clear? Good. So, managed by Juan Lopez and captained by Obdulio Varela, Uruguay entered the World Cup for the second time. As I said earlier, their only group match was against Bolivia, and they beat them ever so narrowly, such a tight margin, 8-0. 8-0. This included a hat-trick by Uruguay's sixth all-time top scorer, Oscar Miguez. What this meant was, Uruguay qualified for the Final Four, but not the Final Fours and semi-final to finals. As in, there were 4 teams, 1 table, whoever finished top of the table won the World Cup. On the 9th of June, Uruguay's first game came up against Spain in Sao Paulo. Uruguay dominated the first 30 minutes, and they finally got the breakthrough they deserved. Alcides Gigia got behind the Spanish defence and fired it in near post, 1-0. But just 10 minutes later, it went all downhill for Uruguay. They were 2-1 down. A 3-minute brace from Barcelona forward Basorda turned the game round, 2-1 to Spain. Just 11 minutes before full time, Captain Fantastic Varela scored a thunderous long shot for Uruguay that the cameraman didn't even capture. The game ended 2-2. Uruguay's next game was against Sweden, who had just come off a 7-1 battering by Brazil. The game started terribly for Uruguay. After 5 minutes they were 1-0 down thanks to a Carl-Eric Palmer goal. The Swedes' lead would last half an hour after Gigia's deflected shot would loop over the Swedish goalkeeper, Kalle Svensson. But almost immediately, Sweden would regain the lead. The cross came in, Uruguay's keeper Anbau Paz just flapped at it, and it would then fall to Stig Sundqvist, who'd finish it for the Swedes. In the 77th minute, Uruguay finally got their equaliser. Oscar Miguez coming in clutch again. In the 85th minute, limbs. With just 5 minutes left, the ball was floated in, and who'd get on the end of it? Oscar Miguez. With just 5 minutes left, Miguez would score the goal that would beat Sweden. Before Uruguay's final game against Brazil, the table looked like this. Meaning Brazil only needed the draw to win, because it was 2 points for a victory back then. In front of 200,000 people at the Maracanã, Brazil were heavy favourites. They'd scored 21 goals in their previous 5 games in the competition. It would be a massive achievement if Uruguay were to win, as unlikely as it looked. In the 47th minute, nightmare for Uruguay. Friacha burst through the Uruguayan defence and buried it in the bottom corner, 1-0 Brazil. Uruguay decided to really slow the game down, and it worked. In the 66th minute, Schiaffino scored the equaliser, and then with 11 minutes to spare, Gigia scored the winner, becoming the first player to score in every game in the World Cup. The game was to be known as the agony of the Maracanã, and one of the biggest upsets in world football history.